The first recorded camera was built 2,500 years ago. And what would we do without painters? There's nothing new under the sun. G'day. 2,500 years ago, Chinese recorded the use of what we call nowadays camera obscura. That is a very dark room with a small hole in one wall, so the image from outside would be played onto the inside wall upside down, but it was basically a pinhole camera 2,500 years ago. It's been recorded in places like Egypt. In Europe, it was more documented around the 1800s with painters using it to sketch out ideas of landscapes, etc. So, camera obscuras. I've actually been inside one. But yeah, the idea of capturing things with light has been around for thousands of years. But well before photography, where we could record what light we captured, there was painting. The whole thing about this video is, in the world of photography, we're just pygmies standing on the shoulders of giants. There's nothing new in photography that didn't already exist for centuries, if not over 1,000 years before photography came about. So let's go through some. Yeah, there's been various art movements in the world of painting over the centuries, and as I go through some of these well understood and well documented art movements, think about them and what they produced in the terms of modern photography. Okay, going to go back to the High Renaissance, a period that marked the pinnacle. I'm going to have to read this stuff. The pinnacle of the Renaissance movement, with an emphasis on harmony, balance, cohesive composition of figures within a rational space defined by linear perspective. This is in the 1500s. Okay, most photography you see has those elements to it. Bit of realism. Just after that, Baroque. If it's Baroque, you don't fix it. In 1600s to 1700s, dramatic use of light and shadow, intense emotions, movement, rich colour palettes, elaborate decorations, and integration of the arts. Rembrandt, one of the famous painters of light and use of dramatic light in his paintings. Then in the 1800s, aestheticism, emphasis on beauty and aesthetic experience over practical, moral or narrative considerations, often featuring sensuous imagery, refined elegance and ornamental style. So basically, rich people at leisure. Then in the mid-1800s, realism emerged in France as a reaction against the dramatic subjects and exaggerated emotionalism of romanticism. It sought to portray the lives, appearances, problems, customs and mores of the middle and lower classes, not just the rich, which were considered unimportant by other art movements. Realist artists focused on ordinary subjects and sought to represent them in their natural state without idealization or romantic embellishment. Street photography, anyone? Among the hoi polloi, the ordinary people of the world. Then academic art, from again the mid-1800s. Adherence to classical standards of beauty, emphasis on drawing and form, historical and mythological subjects, moral themes, technically refined execution. Are those corners sharp? Refers to the art and artists associated with the Academy of Fine Arts, particularly in France, focusing on beauty, harmony and precision. Another movement that went back to trying to get things realistic and lifelike. Then, basically on the heels of that, Impressionism. Emphasis on accurate depiction of light, ordinary subject matter, including inclusion of movement, crucial elements of human perception and experiences, with visible brushstrokes and open composition. So, too much grey in there. Oh, can't you fix that? What's all this vignetti? Too rough. There'd be complaints. So Impressionism sought to capture the momentary sensory effect of a scene, the impression objects made, rather than containing detailed realistic representation. So yeah, there's photography movements like that, and they would be complained against by the people who liked utter realism. Post-Impressionism, on the heels of Impressionism, using vivid colours, thick application of paint, distinctive brush strokes, real-life subject matter, emphasis on geometric forms and abstract qualities, greater sense of emotional depth, symbolism, structure to the spontaneous, paved the way for development of modern art by emphasising emotion and symbolic content. So getting away again more from the realism and purity of painting. Then symbolism, on the heels of post-impressionism. Emphasis on emotion, ideas, symbolic meanings, rather than realistic representation. So you have themes of love, fear, anguish, death, use of mythology and dream imagery. Then came expressionism in the early 1900s. Emotional intensity, distortion of forms for emotional effect, bold colour uses, dramatic and dynamic brushwork, subjective perspective, focusing on representing emotional experiences rather than physical reality. So expressionism, you can do that with photography, but it's often not understood. Then came Dada. This is basically started First World War. Characteristics of absurdity, irony, anti-war politics, rejection of conventional art aesthetics, use of ready-mades and collage was a precursor to modern art movements that followed. Dadaism tried to show the absurdity of the rigidity of the society that started things like wars. Basically concurrent with Dadaism, suprematism focuses on basic geometric forms such as circles, squares, lines, rectangles, uses of limited colour palette, primary featuring black, white and primary colours, artistic feeling rather than depicting objects or scenes. When I look at some of these pictures, paintings, I think, some aerial drone photography is much like this, and even some street imagery using light and shape in our streets. Then on the heels of that, surrealism. Emphasis on the unconscious mind, dreamlike scenes, illogical sequences, unlikely elements put together, symbolic imagery. So you're really getting out there with experimentation and the feeling, and you can do that with photography. After that, we're talking about 1960s now, minimalism. Simplicity of form and content, emphasis on geometric shapes, repetition, monochromatic colour schemes, reduction to essential elements, focus on physical space and materialism. And minimalist photography is the known thing. Then, swinging against all that experimentation and the emotional stuff to photorealism, which is still going on now. Highly detailed and accurate depictions that resemble photographs. Focus on everyday life and mundane subjects. Use of photographs as a source. Emphasis on technical skill and surface details. Oh, how sharp is that? There's got to be sharp everywhere. Got to be as real as possible. Then, completely the opposite to that, outsider art. From mid 20th century to today, created outside the boundaries of official culture of world art, often by self-taught or naive art makers without formal training, raw, unrefined, deeply personal, with a disregard for conventional art rules. Now, outsider art has been recognised as an art movement, but it was a long, difficult path because this stuff was made by people who were totally outside the art movements that were accepted in our society, and they did things that were totally outside the rules of painting and photography and art. Okay, so, but eventually it's recognised as a thing. So all you photographers out there who don't know the rules and don't want to know them and are just taking shots of everyday stuff in their life, you've got a movement. And finally, contemporary art from the 70s to now, diversity of subjects and techniques, digital technology use, conceptual art, interactive installations, global perspective, social and political commentary. So why have I gone through all this? Because you can recognise all sorts of different photographic techniques and movements in the world of painting, which has been going on for centuries. And the rules of photography that some people really push and spout come from the world of painting. The composition, the colour, the use of light. These are things that try to capture with our cameras that were made and painted by artists over the centuries with all these different art movements. The same as now. Back then, when a new art movement began to grow, the previous art movement, the established art movement, would be in shock and horror at what was going on. What are these newfangled stuff? It's not art, that's not painting. Look, they're not even realistic. I can see all the brush strokes, that's not right. So there was a lot of angst when a new movement started. But it's all art, okay? It's art. And people's expression with these different art types and styles are each and every one of them valid. So I go over to the world of photography now, and what do we find? We've got the purists who want ultra sharpness everywhere and everything in focus, and if you make a mistake with your focus, or well, what they would call a mistake, or your composition, then your picture's no good because you aren't following the rules. Stuff the rules, it's art. Photography is an art. There are no rules. No matter what direction your photography is going as you follow your path, that is okay. That is right. If you are producing what you want to produce, if you are using your camera to make images that you are happy with, then it's good. It's okay. You're not making mistakes. What you're doing is growing your own form of expression. And it doesn't have to even fit into one of those movements that I've been talking about. Make your own art, follow your own art. If you use a camera to do it, great. It's just a tool of making images. So when someone tells you, oh, you're breaking the rules, or this, you should be following these rules, or hey, your photo's no good because it's not sharp up in the corners, or something like that, you don't have to listen to them. For years I worked as a professional photographer, and I took thousands and thousands of photos for all sorts of clients. None of them was art, it was work. Okay, and in those cases, yeah, I had to follow composition, I had to make sure everything was sharp, blah, 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 because it's work. You're producing something for a client. But once you start to use your camera for yourself, it can be art, and you can do anything. You can go anywhere with how you represent what you're seeing in front of your camera. Follow your own path, make your own art. Don't worry about the rules. There are no rules in art. You can't break the rules because there aren't any. So get out there, pick up your camera, take it for a walk, and have some fun. Make some art. Bye.